want to introduce our speaker for today. We have with us Caitlin McKenney, and she is a certified assistive technology professional with Tech Owl, and that's the Pennsylvania statewide Assistive Technology Act program. And her job is to help people find the tools and tech they need to live safer and more independent lives. Just adding one other person here. In addition to being part of the Tech Owl team, Caitlin serves as the Assistant Director for Emergency Management at Temple's Institute on Disabilities. In this role, she provides technical assistance and collaboration with regional emergency management bodies to help advocate for inclusion of the disability community at all levels of planning and response. So she is going to talk to us about technology options and also how those can fit in with emergency preparation planning. So thank you for joining us, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me here, Christine. I'm excited to tell you all a little bit about Tech Owl and what we do, because all of our services are completely free and available to everyone here, and we would love for people to use them. So let me share my screen. Okay, and you can all yell at me if you can't see that. All right. So I will also put in the chat the link to these slides in case anyone would like to download them to follow along. Okay, so today we're going to talk about assistive technology in the home and community and how to use your state AT Act program. Tech Owl stands for Technology for Our Whole Lives. So we serve everyone in Pennsylvania of any age, any type of disability, including people who don't identify as having a disability, who are just maybe, seniors who are looking for some tools for aging in place to be able to maintain their independence as they age. There are also equivalent programs across all of the US states and territories. So if you have loved ones or people who you care for that live in a different state, I'd be happy to help direct you towards their equivalent program as well. And they're going to have a lot of the same resources and services that I talk about here today as Tech Owl having. Tech Owl serves the entire state of Pennsylvania, so we do have 9 resource centers across the state so that we have someone regionally to go and do in-person demos and lend that kind of more one-to-one support to everybody. Your regional center would be our main office here in Philadelphia, which has the most robust team. So you guys are very lucky. I am biased, but I think you are very lucky to have us here as your main touch point. So our goals for our time together tonight is I want to help you explore how technology can help enhance safety and maximize independence for yourselves and for people you care for. And that means identifying 3 considerations for tech selection. So what you might want to think about while you're exploring and trying different technology, how you might make decisions about whether or not it's a good fit for you, as well as then learning how to try new tools for free. So I'll walk you through how to use the free Tech Owl Lending Library services. And then we'll end our time together talking about taking the first step towards more accessible emergency planning. And I look forward to explaining a little bit of how those things go hand in hand and how your assistive technology is involved both as a consideration that needs to be planned for and as an accommodation that can support your planning. Okay, before I start using the word assistive technology 10 more times, I should probably define it. So assistive technology, according to the federal definition by people who write this stuff, is any item or piece of equipment, whether that's something, commercially bought or individually manufactured, customized for the person, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capacity of individuals with disabilities. So that's a lot of words. My translation for that is any tool that makes your life easier, safer, or more independent. And over the past couple of years, we're also seeing phrases like enabling technologies or inclusive technologies gain traction, especially with people who are under the ODP umbrella. So especially as we're adopting remote supports and remote monitoring tech, especially, you might see some of those words, inclusive or enabling or adaptive technologies as well. And they all fall under the same umbrella of assistive technology. So it includes off-the-shelf generic tools like pencil grips or built-in tools like the accommodation accessibility settings within your smartphone. And it also includes highly specialized and customized prescription equipment like wheelchairs or high-tech communication devices. So we work with and draw from that entire continuum here at TechOwl, and I'll show you some more examples of what that looks like. First, I wanted to illustrate that key phrase in that definition that says functional capacities. So functional capacities means things like being able to move, being able to control your environments, being able to hear, to see, to communicate, or to remember. So those are the main factors we look at when we're determining does something count as assistive technology or not. So we oftentimes might get requests for, say, a computer to do continuing ed, which will support someone's vocational goals. That's definitely very important and exciting, and we'd love to support you with where to source that. That doesn't necessarily fall under our definition of assistive technology, unless your disability is related to how you're using the computer. So if you maybe need a screen reader because you can't see the computer, or if you need an alternate control method because you can't use a mouse or a keyboard, you're using voice control or something like that, then that role brings in the role of functional capacities, and that becomes assistive technology. I mentioned that there's a continuum of things under this umbrella, so all the way from light tech to high tech. When I say that I have, a degree in assistive technology or I'm an ATP, people oftentimes might assume that that means we're working with really high tech things. And we do, but we also work with really low tech things. So we really want to figure out what's going to be the most impactful support for you in the environments that you're working and living in. So that might be a, picture communication book versus the dynamic display touchscreen app. Some people maybe don't want a touchscreen, or it might be a combination of both. So we'll talk a little bit about the importance of having low-tech backups for all your high-tech devices that the batteries could die on, or the screen could crack on, or that type of thing. Ultimately, we're striving to provide people with the most appropriate tools, regardless of where it falls on that continuum of low tech to high tech. There's a little video clip of some examples of 3D printed tools from TechL's 3D printing program, which are things that we sometimes get questions on. Well, why does this exist? And they're just little things, very inexpensive things that make people's lives easier. So we see there are just simple things like a zipper pull, a button hook, a pen grip, card holders. Those things all count as assistive technology. So some more examples of what this looks like in practice. So when someone comes to us with a question like, I want to explore solutions for managing my medications. I need help taking my medication at the right time. Then that's a whole world of possibilities for them. So we'll ask them questions like, what are the barriers you're experiencing? What's hard for you right now? Is it hard to physically open the bottles? Is it hard to remember what time to take them? Do you already have a reminder system in place? And is that reminder not working well for you? Some people maybe have a reminder on their smartphone, but then they click the little snooze button and don't actually take the medication. So depending on what that particular person's goals and abilities are, anything from this entire range of medication management tools could be the right fit for them. We've got those low-tech pill organizers. They come in all different sizes, all different opening mechanisms. And sometimes that solution is all you need to have confidence that the medication was correctly portioned out, and you can see at a glance whether that day's dose was already taken. That's what I use myself because I don't have that many medicines to keep track of, and I'm not worried about the timing, but I just want to be able to see at a glance in the box, did I take that today or not? Luckily, I live in a household that doesn't have to worry about, other people getting into a medication. But if you need something that's maybe locked down for your living situation, maybe you step up the continuum to like something like that MedReady dispenser. So that's a locked device and it operates on a timer. So you only have access to one compartment at a time, and it rotates when it's time for your next dose. There are also variations of similar products which have, a talking reminder instead of a beeping alarm or that sort of thing. Then there are app versions of reminders for someone who owns a smartphone. This is a screenshot from the MediSafe app, which is a HIPAA compliant app. And the thing I like about it is it has a very visual interface. So you can customize what the little icon next to your reminder looks like. So it will pop up with a picture that looks like the specific pill you're supposed to be taking. So it gives you a little extra sense of security that this is the right thing at the right time. And then all the way up to on the high-tech end on the right here, we have things like the Hero, which is an automatic medication dispenser. So it holds up to a 90-day supply of up to 10 different medications. Filling that, all you have to do is you pour the whole bottle down to the sleeve, and however many bottles you have, however many different sleeves, and then it will automatically sort them for you and dispense them according to your schedule. So lots of different options depending on what it is you need and what resources you have available. Like, do you have Wi-Fi for a smart device that needs Wi-Fi, for instance? There are a lot of pros and cons to both the low-tech solutions and the high-tech solutions. So the low-tech solutions tend to be the most affordable. They're also really reliable. You don't have to worry about, for example, electricity or internet connectivity going out. You don't have to make those backup plans. They're also probably not going to require any training or assistance to set them up. You're probably going to be able to sort those yourself. And they're uninvasive. What I mean by that is that they're controlled by yourself or your caregiver at the point of use. So there's no compromising of privacy because everything is right there. There's nothing, being sent to the cloud or data being shared with other users. High-tech solutions, though, tend to be more versatile. They're multifunctional. You can use one device or one system to accomplish multiple goals. So like using a smart home reminder system could remind you about your medications. It could also remind you about your shopping list. It could remind you about your appointments. So it ultimately kind of streamlines things for you. And they can also be more responsive to changing needs. So if you have a change in your schedule or a change in your medication that needs to have a setting adjusted, or a different process needs to be automated on a day-to-day basis so that the tech will act differently depending on what's happening in the home. And then finally, those high-tech solutions are shareable. So this can also be a benefit to have those connected solutions that allow a caregiver to check in through an app and to support you from a distance. It can help someone maintain independence longer, so you don't need someone as often in person in the home. Or it can relieve some of that task of whoever is in the home by allowing other natural support people to assist with some different functions. So there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to how high tech you want to go with a piece of technology. It really depends on the goals that are important to you and the resources that you have available. So I always encourage people to be mindful of kind of maintaining a balance when it comes to the level of control and supervision that each person has access to. So that everyone's autonomy and privacy is respected. But there's going to be a lot of times when you want a combination of both low-tech solutions and high-tech solutions. And this is especially true when it comes to prevention of things like falls or wandering, or fire safety. So the tools that are going to actively lower the occurrences of those incidents rather than just respond to them are going to be low-tech tools. As an example of this, here's a continuum of fall prevention tools. So on the far right, I have things like a grab bar, a seat assist cushion that helps lift someone from a seated position and help them up to standings, bed rail to help someone stand up without falling from bed. And then on the right side, I have some alerting devices, some, panic button style life alert necklaces, and then, the automated Apple Watch automation that has its SOS feature to tell someone that you've fallen. So looking at these tools, which of these devices is going to prevent me from falling? And the answer is the things on the left there, the easy access, the mobility aids, the durable medical equipment. Those grab bars and bed rails are what's going to keep me from falling, not the high-tech fall detectors. Those are only going to tell someone once I've already fallen. By the time that Apple Watch kicks in, I'm on the floor. And it is very important to me if I'm on the floor to have a method of calling for help. Yes, absolutely. That's going to protect my health and safety in other ways still. But it didn't prevent the initial fall from happening. So that's why we need layers of tools. We need the low-tech solutions in addition to the high technology. Another example of safety-related wandering. So on the far left, we have different styles of door locks. And then we have in the middle some communication strategies. So a wristband from Road ID or a shoe tag from If I Need Help. Those are both some nice affordable options. I'm not affiliated with any of these brands. I promise nobody's paying me to advertise their stuff. But if you are in need of a medical alert bracelet, using ones from companies that aren't specifically exclusively made for medical alert bracelets could be a lot more affordable. And then on the left, we have tracking tools like the GPS tools like GeoBit or the smartwatch that can track your location. And again, if we think about the question of which of these tools is going to keep me from wandering off. And honestly, for this example, for many people, the answer is actually none of these. It's probably more nuanced. The answer is probably, communication access, an understanding of the causes of elopement, regulating my environment in other ways. If maybe there's something that's causing me to be distressed where I was, I'm trying to mitigate those events before they happen. But just like with falls, we're going to want layers in order to mitigate that. So sensors to alert someone when the door is opened, yes. Strategies to help identify myself to any responders or community members that can help me get back to where I need to be, yes. And maybe high-tech devices as the last layer. So we're not going to rely on a GPS tracker as plan A, hopefully not even plan B, but it could be an excellent plan C. How can Tech Owl help in this decision-making process? So if you've identified what your goals are, what it is you need a tool to do, where do you go to learn about those low-tech and high-tech options to kind of create your custom solution? So as I said, Tech Owl has 9 resource centers. Our Philadelphia center is your nearest location, but we also do almost all of our services virtually. So we can assist you with learning about and trying out different devices from your home. And this includes borrowing things from our free lending library. And we'll help connect you with whichever team member is the best fit for your needs. So I had mentioned to Christine earlier that we've got 12 people in our office here at the main Tech Health Center. So that means we have certified low vision therapists, we have speech language pathologists, we have occupational therapists here, and we have myself who's an assistive technology professional, and different people with lived experience of disability as well. So we'll match you with the person whose education experience best matches whatever activity or disability type you are looking for solutions for. And we're happy to connect with whoever you want involved. If you want your sports coordinator invited, if you want a family member invited, if you have a neighbor that you think would be a good support for learning how to use the tech that you are interested in, invite them in too. We'd love anyone who wants to come visit us for a demonstration or connect with us over Zoom. And our process is very person-centered. So we start by asking about your abilities, your challenges, your strengths, and what tasks that you are interested in doing. And not only the task, but also the environment in which you do that task. So we'll know about, existing technology in your environment. If there are things that you want your new tech to be compatible with. There's nothing worse than having, a family full of iPhone users be recommended an app that only works on Android. Then nobody's gonna know how to troubleshoot that or help implement it. And knowing the things like, do you have Wi-Fi access? Do you have, reliable access to any other types of software you might need in order to come up with the best possible solutions for you. And oftentimes when we're suggesting a solution or multiple solutions for you to try out, because it is absolutely your decision on which one to go with, we will have some of those options available for you to borrow from our free lending library. So this is a mail-based system. It's completely free, but it's like online shopping. You go to the website and add things to a loan cart and hit the little checkout button and they get shipped right to your house. So we use UPS for shipping. Our only restriction there is that they aren't allowed to ship to PO boxes. So it does have to be a physical address, but it can be a home address, it can be a workplace, it can be a school. And then you have that device to try for 5 weeks. After that 5 weeks is up, you just put the return label that's already included in the box onto it, and then you either drop it off at your local UPS store, or we can arrange for them to come pick it up from your house if you'd like. And TechOwl staff are available for support with that whole process, from placing your request. If you prefer to place a request over the phone, maybe instead of using the online catalog, we're happy to assist with that, as well as setting up and troubleshooting and learning about the actual devices themselves. And again, you can come to our community space here in Philadelphia for that. Sometimes we can come out to organizations to do that if there's a couple people interested in the same types of things, or we are happy to do that remotely through a phone call, a Zoom call, a FaceTime, whatever works best for you. I do want to share what that process looks like for everyone so that you don't have to just take my word for it, that it is actually very easy. So this is the TechOwl website. Well, I'm gonna go back to the homepage. This is the homepage of our website. If you click on the Borrow tab, it brings you to this link that says go to the library. And the reason it has to be another link to click on is just because of complicated federal database reasons. It's boring, I promise. But that is a trustworthy link. You can click go to the library and it's going to bring you to this program called NATADS, the National something Assistive Technology something database. I should learn what that stands for. It'll say, welcome to Pennsylvania's Assistive Technology Lending Library. You can click view items for loan. And then let's say there's, something specific, you want to look for. Categories here include disability types, so things like vision, hearing, speech, but they also include activity types. So if you're looking for daily living activities for, self-care tasks, you would click daily living, or if you're looking for recreational activities, you could click, the rec and leisure category and search those items. Let's do that. Let's see what we have in the rec and leisure category. So you'll see from the homepage, the initial search without any search terms included 456 devices. So we have 456 different things available for you to borrow. Here in the rec and leisure category, we've got 53 things in that category. I see adaptive gaming tools, people who maybe don't have the fine motor control to use a traditional like gaming controller. I see an aqua paint set. So this is a paint by water kit with like, actual adult pictures and not just cartoons for someone who maybe isn't as interested in the ones made for kids. We've got an adaptive electronic guitar. We've got some toys. We've got ergonomic tools for things like gardening and crocheting. So lots of different hobby supports for you, whatever your interest is and whatever age you are. We probably have something that could interest you. And if we don't, the fantastic thing is that we're also always looking for suggestions of things to add to the library. So if you come have a consult or a demonstration with us and you're like, I really need, let's see, recently I talked to a gentleman who had Parkinson's and was experiencing a lot of hand tremors and wants to get back into um, playing his instruments. He's a musician. And so I said, I'm not super familiar with the adaptations for stringed instruments. I've got, piano options here for you, but let me ask around and we'll see what we can add to the lending library. So if we don't have it, we're happy to find it for you. All right, so that's just some examples of, oh, I didn't click on anything. Here, I'm going to click on, oh, this is one of our new gardening tools. It's called the seeding square. That looks interesting to me, so I'm going to click on that and it will bring me to a description of the device. So it says this color-coded tool plants your seeds at the right depth and distance. So you can read on the seed packet, how many inches apart something's supposed to be, and then drop them into those color-coded holes in order to help you plant your plants evenly. That looks interesting to me, so I would click the add to cart button and then check out. And you can see that there are number currently available 3. So we have 3 of those currently available. So that means there's probably no wait time. It'll probably get mailed to you right within the next week or 2. All right. Any questions before I make you all dizzy and switch screens again about the lending library?
I didn't have a question about the lending library, but
Mhm.
let's say someone borrows something and they like with the seed thing, I could see it
Mhm.
being maybe you only need it for a week or two anyway because
Mhm.
you're planting. But if it's something that they're testing out for utilizing in the long term,
Mhm.
do you guys have follow-on supports to help people identify ways to acquire that item permanently?
Absolutely. I think you were just reading my mind here.
Okay.
Um, so we do absolutely. And let me move to from current slide. There we go. My reading and talking skills need work. So if you decide that this is something that you really like, it's going to work well for you, we are more than happy to help you identify ways to get it. So we don't directly sell anything, and I consider that to be a benefit. I know it's slightly less convenient for the user that they can't just say, well, can I just keep this one that's already in my house and pay you for it? But the fact that we don't sell anything means we have no bias, we have no stake in this. We are going to help you shop around for which is the most convenient manufacturer, what's the best price. And we're going to help you identify those funding sources. So if you have something that is like a daily living device that might be covered by your waiver, then we can suggest that. We can say, hey, this looks like it could be eligible for your AT funding through your waiver. Would you like help, justifying how you would use it? If it's something that maybe you have a diagnosis that there's a specific grant available for. I know off the top of my head, I think of 2 different grants for Parkinson's, 2 for MS, and like 5 for spinal cord injuries, couple for autism, 1 for cerebral palsy. So if there's something like that that you might be eligible for, if you don't mind sitting down with us and having a quick chat about hey, what are your diagnoses, which might not have come up before then, honestly. I hardly ever ask anyone for that information because it's usually not relevant when I'm asking for what their goals are and what their challenges and abilities are. But we're happy to talk through that and see what it is you might be eligible for in terms of funding assistance. TechOwl also has a couple programs to directly acquire AT from us. Now, these would be the Reused Equipment Exchange Program, which is a donation-based program, the Free Special Phone Program, I Can Connect, which is a program specifically for deaf-blind consumers. I'm not going to cover that one in detail today, but if anyone's curious about it, happy to pass along information. Create Together, which is our fabrication and 3D printing program, and Just So, which is one of our AAC programs. So I'll give you a little more information about some of those. So one way to acquire things directly from TechOwl is through our used equipment program. Now, we always have mobility devices available through this, things like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, shower chairs, but we also have an assortment of other assistive technology available, just depending on what happens to be donated. We also get things into this program through retired library devices. So if there's a new model of a device coming out and it has features that are different enough that we think, okay, people might, need this to be able to make their decisions, might need the most up-to-date version, then we'll retire the older version. It will move to our used equipment program and can be donated to a community member who is willing to have the slightly less up-to-date version of the tool. So we have lots of things available that way as well. And you can see some of what's available on our webpage at that Philadelphia Read Closet link. I also have a pretty wide network of contacts with other organizations who run similar services. So if there's something that we don't specifically have, feel free to reach out and ask me about it anyway, because I might know who does have it available right then. Another program in which you can permanently acquire technology directly from TechOwl is our free special phone program. So most of our services, everything I've mentioned so far in terms of having a consult, having a demonstration, using the lending library, getting free used equipment, none of those require any sort of application. None of them require you to provide any proof of medical need or financial need or anything like that. Those are all just you think this could be helpful for you? Great, let's do it. Our free special phone program is an exception in that we do have an application with certain criteria for that one. So this program serves residents who have a disability that makes it difficult to use a typical phone and who have an income below 200% of the federal poverty level. That's not household income, that is the individual's income. So for a single person, it would be less than $31,300. And then the applicant is responsible for their phone service. So we provide the hardware, we provide the phone itself, and then we'll provide you with a list of low-cost phone service providers, such as people who have the Lifeline programs and that sort of thing. But you will be responsible for that ongoing service fee for however long you continue using the phone. Some examples on this slide show examples of phones that can be got through this program. So in the top right corner, there's a CapTel phone that has captions for people who have auditory processing difficulties or are hard of hearing. And on the bottom left is the blind shell phone. That phone has some, tactile labels on it for people who have low vision and maybe have difficulty using a touch screen. But we also do have lots of standard mainstream touchscreen smartphones available. And what we'll do with those is we will provide you with information about how to use the built-in accessibility features on those. So you might choose to get a standard iPhone or a standard, Android smartphone from this program. And you might say, hey, I could use some tips on how to use the speak talk back features. So it'll read out the screen to me, or how to use it with voice control so that I don't have to type my text messages. Or maybe how to use, they have a assistive access feature now that simplifies the home screen. So you can choose maybe just 4 or 5 apps to have available on the phone's home screen to make it a little simpler for people. So we'll provide you with information and help you set up the phone using those accessibility features. And that's where, the adaptive part of it, even though it isn't, quote, a special phone. And you can apply for that program online, or we'd be happy to mail a hard copy of that application out to you as well. All right, another way that you can get free tech to keep directly from TechOwl is our 3D printing and fabrication program. Here's some examples. I think we are up to like 30 different things on our maker catalog now, so feel free to browse that on the website as well. But the majority of these things are going to be small handheld plastic devices to make just some fine motor type of task easier usually. So things like bottle openers, utensil supports, cabinet pulls, key helper. And I've seen some of these used in creative ways by people who don't necessarily have, fine motor difficulties, who don't necessarily mm, who don't necessarily qualify for like traditional occupational therapy type of interventions. I recently had a young man who had a tactile sensitivity to metals and really hated turning keys. But with the key helper, it's not that he couldn't grip the key, it's that he just didn't want to touch the key. So the key helper is all plastic. So now he has a nice big plastic handle. He can put the key in and turn it with that plastic and never have to touch the key. It was a fantastic solution for him. Adaptive nail clipper holders, we've got 2 or 3 different styles of those now, and they've been very popular lately. It makes it not only easier to be able to press down the lever, but also just a little simpler in terms of helping you aim where your finger is going to go when you're clipping your nails. It's a great alternative to using one of those electronic nail clippers, which are also fantastic, but they're just a little more expensive. And if there's a lower footprint, lower cost solution that works just as well, could be worth trying. And again, these are things that we will mail out to you for free. So we ask that you limit your request to maybe 3 to 5 items at a time and don't request us to send out the entire catalog of devices because our poor 3D printers will go up in smoke. But we are happy to fill multiple requests for you over time if there are different things you want to try out. And then our last way that we can assist people in getting technology for free permanently is through our AAC services. So anyone who lives in Pennsylvania can have a consult with our SLPs, just like doing a consult or a demo with any of our other professionals. We'll walk you through the options, we'll show you how to use them, we'll make some suggestions for things you might want to try. In addition to that, some people in Pennsylvania are eligible for formal services that can come with a formal letter for you to submit to insurance to acquire a communication device. So that includes early intervention clients in Philadelphia, adult IDS clients in Philadelphia, and ODP consumers who are anywhere in the state. So that's that Just So program, which stands for Just Short Term Online. So people typically do like anywhere from 2 to 10 sessions with our speech therapists through this program. And it's mostly evaluation. So they're looking at what program or what device is going to meet your communication needs. They'll help you connect with a trial of that device, either through our lending library, or if it's something we don't have, they'll get you a trial directly from the manufacturer. They'll let you try it out for a while, then they'll come back again, meet and talk to you or your support providers and say, okay, how did that work out? And then write the letter justifying that device. So you can learn more about any of those services on our AAC community website as well. So a lot of trialing and a lot of demonstrating of different technologies. That is the bulk of what we do here at Tech Owl, but we do have some other services that are seemingly less related. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our emergency planning assistance and answer the question of what does emergency preparedness have to do with assistive technology? So 2 ways in which these are related. Maintenance of your assistive technology and accommodations in your emergency planning. So when we are, for instance, getting a communication device or a hearing device or a power mobility device for someone, we want to look at whether they have plans to maintain access to those tools. If there was, for instance, a power outage, or if the device breaks, what's the plan? Do you know not just who to contact for repairs, but how you're going to have your needs met in the meantime? So this might be low-tech backups, having a paper printout of whatever digital files you use, such as your communication device vocabulary. This might mean having a manual push wheelchair as a backup for your power chair. And then also things like spare batteries. I know that waiver funding does cover generators in Pennsylvania, but that's not always the most impactful or practical solution for everyone. So we can walk you through what are your other power options. Do you need a whole house natural gas generator that's hooked up by an electrician? Could you use a portable generator that is run by, propane that you have to source and store and fill safely, and to make sure it's spaced safely away from the house and have all of those factors considered? Would that be practical for your circumstances, or maybe not so much? For a lot of people, we are educating about what's called high capacity lithium ion battery banks or potentially power inverters. So these are things like that picture on the top left there. This one I think is a model from Yeti. our London library just got a couple similar models from, I want to say the company is called Jackrabbit, but that doesn't sound right. Um, but these are high
Is
capacity
it
battery banks.
Jackery?
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you. So we do have a couple of the Jackery battery banks in our London library for people to try out and learn about. This model pictured here is also a fantastic model. I have no brand loyalty in this particular instance. But what these do is give you a battery backup for things that, traditionally plug into the wall. Maybe you have a spare wheelchair battery, the kind that actually goes into your wheelchair, and that's fantastic too. And maybe you have a spare battery that you can hook onto your communication device, and hopefully you have spare batteries for your hearing aids and that type of thing. But for something that you don't have a spare battery to go in the thing itself, you need a spare charging option. And the capacity on this, I want to say the 600-watt one we just got, I ran the numbers and it could run a CPAP machine for 2 nights. So to give you kind of an idea of the capacity, if you had maybe medication that needs to be refrigerated and wanted to buy a mini, ice cooler, this could keep that running for several days. If you had, a fan that you want to run on backup power, we've recently had power outages here in the Philadelphia area that lasted for, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in some areas. And it was, so hot some of those days. And people didn't have refrigeration, didn't have fans or air conditioning. If you have temperature sensitivity as a result of your disability, that could be a real issue. So helping to maintain access to electricity for any of those things that you need access for, we can help you work that into your plans. And then on the flip side, using assistive technology to learn about or respond to an emergency. So I'm going to share with you one of our templates for that. So at the TechOwl website on our ePrep page, we have an example of how you could share and record your plans for emergency preparedness in a way that accounts for disability. And this is just one of 3 different templates we have available. We do have one for schools as well, which could be modified potentially to fit some of the environments you work in. But this one is called Be Ready. And there's 5 different sections. So the first section is need to know information. This is particularly helpful if you are not able to communicate these things yourself independently, whether that's because of, your routine day-to-day communication style, or because your communication has been impacted by an illness or a disaster event. So you'll write down things like medications and allergies, your communication preferences, so how you best express yourself, and then any limitations that might be relevant for care staff or first responders to know about you. Emergency contacts, your insurance information, and then comfort information. We added these comfort information things during COVID when hospitals were not being really good about letting caregivers or advocates or support providers into rooms in order to let nursing staff know, like, what are your favorite foods? What's your favorite music? Anything that could help someone interact with you more successfully. And after that section begins the actual emergency plans. So you could change this page to say that it was an emergency plan for work, for home, for a day program that you spend time in, or anywhere else where you spend a lot of time. And the 3 sections are how are we going to identify that there is an emergency, what actions will we take, and then how will we get assistance. And when you go in to fill this out, you can customize this and delete any sections that aren't relevant for you. But it helps you with the brainstorming part. And we're also happy as TechOwl staff to sit down with someone and help them make this plan. So if you want to use the template on your own, it is freely available. Print it out, give it to your neighbors, tell the world. But we also will help you do some of this brainstorming and planning. So if you are curious about what kinds of tools might be relevant for you to get information about an emergency, or what kind of tools might be relevant for how you're going to take action. I know things that I often include in these plans are sensory tools. So I have, earplugs and headphones at my desk at work. I can use those in case the fire alarm goes off. Uh, I used to work in the school system, and our kids' lockdown plans had things like fidgets, jewelry. One kiddo's lockdown plan had a certain number of packs of Smarties candy, because in order for that student to be able to functionally stay quiet and follow those steps of the lockdown, that's what they needed to have provided. So sensory tools as well as any mobility tools that might be needed for an emergency, such as a stair travel device. If you are in a building where the elevators turn off when the fire alarm goes off, then you might want to have an alternate route to get down the stairs. And then assistance. So if you need help, how will you get help? If you've already arranged a buddy system and there are certain people who you know are going to help, write their names down, go over this plan with them. If you have a fall alert or if you have a medical ID bracelet or something like that, include that down in the plan. So then you can go through and check off that you've comprehensively taken account of all of these different aspects of planning. And then we have the supply list. So this is perhaps the most immediately practical aspect of the template. Where do you want to keep your go bag and what's in it? And I always tell people a great way to start is just by picking up one extra thing on your next big monthly grocery run. You don't have to necessarily have 3 days worth of food in your cabinet right here, right now. And I understand that, in terms of budgeting, groceries are expensive and it might be hard to get out and do all of this stuff immediately. But there's a nice little bingo page included in the printout from today's session, and you can, use it to keep track of which steps you can take, immediately today to get started. And again, making sure there are things in your go bag that are relevant to any accommodations you need. So if you need headphones, or ear defenders, if you need communication supports, like maybe a paper printout of a low-tech communication board, if you need spare batteries for something, if you have a manual wheelchair, I recommend you put a tire patch kit in that go bag, because in a disaster situation, the last thing you need to be dealing with is a flat tire that you can't patch up. Software backups for assistive devices, so having a little thumb drive with that digital information on it. And then if there's anything that you cannot store in your go bag because you don't necessarily have spares of everything, like medications, then you can attach a list to the outside of it saying what it is and where that item's located. Then the second thing that we need in addition to a go bag is a 72-hour kit. So this is sometimes called a stay bag. This is, shelter in place supplies. So if we are in a situation where there's a snowstorm outside, the roads are closed down, it's hard to get anywhere, or there's a tornado watch outside, some sort of severe weather event, what are you going to want to have in your house? So those non-perishable foods, flashlights, batteries, first aid supplies, and all of those things are listed in checklist format here. It is an accessible PDF as well, so you can use the digital file and type things in, or you can print it out and check things off manually. Then finally, it has some guidance for after a disaster. So some helplines that you could call if there was an emergency. It has the number for the FEMA helpline. It has the number for Health and Human Services in Pennsylvania. It has Tech Owl's phone number. We often help after emergencies or help the Red Cross with people who are in a shelter who need something that they weren't able to evacuate with. And then a disability and disaster hotline from our friends over at the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. This is a phenomenal national organization whose two executive directors happen to both live here in Philadelphia. So they are a fantastic resource as well. And they are also a helpline. So you can call them up and say, hey, I have XYZ disability related need, or even if it's not a need related to your disability, even if you're just like, I don't know where to get transportation to go to the shelter, they will help you identify those resources. Does anyone believe me yet that assistive technology and emergency planning are related? Have I
Uh,
convinced us?
yeah, I mean, in today's world, it's even just like basic functions of a home or apartment are so digital based and electronically connected. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, those digital tech tools too. I had mentioned if there are ways you need to adapt how you get alerts, things like fire alarms that have vibration or strobe lights instead of just, an auditory signal. Or one of my consumers, I actually recommended getting a smart smoke detector for, because the smoke detectors in their house were always left unplugged because they were scared of the noise. So we determined that, okay, well, if we get a smart smoke detector, then it comes with an app, and you know that you have a period of however many seconds to press ignore on false alarms. So you know that next time mom burns something in the kitchen, it isn't going to accidentally set off the smoke alarm. And now that person has functional working smoke detectors all throughout their house because they had the reassurance that they weren't going to get those false alarms. So it's all assistive. Here is that bingo sheet. I should probably call this tic-tac-toe. It's only got 3 by 3 squares. I don't know about that one. But these are all things that you could do literally today. So you don't have to do everything at once. You can download the FEMA app to make sure you are up to date on emergency alerts. You can buy one item off of that go bag list. You can update your emergency contacts with whatever medical offices those are on file with, or within your phone contacts. If you have someone marked as an emergency contact, make sure their information's up to date. You can download that Be Ready file. You can test your smoke alarm. You can request a yellow dot for your car. I didn't speak about that resource, but that is a sticker that goes on the back of your car, and it lets first responders know to look in the glove box for a pamphlet about your disability and health information. That is a widely recognized symbol across not only Pennsylvania, but also the neighboring states. So even if you're in New Jersey, they're going to know what that yellow dot means, and they're going to check your glove box. Great resource, and again, free. So you can use that QR code to go request one from their website. They'll mail it to you. If you happen to ever stop by Tech Owl, I've got a stack of them on my desk too that I'd happy to give out to people. So these are all hopefully easy first steps that you could take to just do one thing to become more prepared. I wanted to also give you some resources regarding other topics Tech Owl does trainings about. So we have 2 repositories of recorded webinars, one from our Tech Accelerator series and one from our AAC community website. So here are some topics that they have covered recently. We have a recording on smart home safety, on executive function tools, on remote supports. And then upcoming topics, the Tech Accelerator webinar series is still a live series running through this December. So upcoming topics in that include assistive technology for reading, adaptive gaming, access to arts, and sensory tools. So you can access the recorded ones on the website or register for upcoming live ones. And I also wanted to provide our contact information. If anyone has questions now, I am more than happy to answer them now. But if you don't think of them till later, because I know that's what always happens to me, here are all the ways you can get in touch with us. Our phone line and our live web chat are staffed by Tech Owl main office staff, so actual assistive technology specialists, Monday through Friday. And we also have pretty good social media presence, so you can also message us on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Then I do have a feedback survey that I will put the link to in the chat as well for folks if they have questions or comments that they want to share about today's presentation. And this does also help us keep the lights on so we can say to our funders, look, people come when we present stuff. And they can keep letting us present stuff. All right, what questions can I answer for people? I know that was a lot.
That was a wealth of information. I feel like I learned a lot from what you covered today, so thank you so much. I know I had a few questions, but I'm gonna see if anyone else wants to ask anything before I do. Bruce says thank you for this comprehensive presentation in the chat.
Oh, wonderful. You're very welcome. I'm glad that people found something from it. Hopefully everyone came away with something they learned today.
Well, one of the things that I was wondering, for the 3D printing lab, so it
Mhm.
sounds like you have sort of a catalog of things that you've already figured out help people and they can just be printed as requested. But do you ever help people design something new to 3D print that isn't in the catalog?
Great question. Yes, we do. So we don't directly have anyone on staff with that kind of engineering experience, but we have a fabulous network of volunteers and Temple Engineering College students who do have that knowledge. So if there's something that you need that we can't find an existing file for, we are happy to make that connection and say, hey, here's who we think would be the right match to help problem solve this, and have them design something that we can then print for you.
Awesome. Bruce, thanks for catching that. It looks like Anne has a question. Go ahead, Anne.
Well, just a comment and question. Son Will, disability, cerebral palsy type. And so we've been, working on this for a long time. But also, I now live in at the Quadrangle, which is a CCRC. And I am seeing, and I tuned in specifically with that in mind because I think I'm in independent living and I see people with low vision issues, coming on. And to remain more still in independent living, I think there are a lot of assistance. And I think, I don't know if you pursued that population at all, but I think this would be incredibly valuable. And I would like to suggest, that we maybe have a presentation here or make some connection. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to contact me about that, or I can
okay,
also send you the presentation request form if you want to pass it along to someone over there who helps
great.
organize those kind of events for the community.
That would be good. Yeah,
Was that similar to, it looks like Craig had a question about wanting to talk with you and maybe do you want to put that form in the chat and then um, that's
Sure.
available and then also your information is in the slide link that you shared if people want to reach out to you directly. Um, Another question that I had, I know that there's a lot of these, I don't know about a lot, but there's more than one um, service where you can register with emergency services to kind of provide them with background information about your situation if they ever need to respond. Do you know anything about like how reliable and effective those are? Is that something that you recommend for people?
It largely depends. So we are at a bit of a disadvantage being a Commonwealth, meaning that Pennsylvania's government is all county up instead of state down. So
Hmm.
all of those registries are going to vary, not only by, municipality and what your local police station happens to prefer, but also vary on a county level in terms of who has access to things like Smart 911.
Mm-hmm.
The counties locally are getting more involved with that. I do think Smart 911 is a fantastic service. And now that registry is one that is only accessed if you call 911. So nobody is able to see your information otherwise. It's not like, a form sitting in a file cabinet at the station somewhere where A, someone has to specifically get it and look at it, and B, multiple people have access to it even if you don't need anything in that moment.
Mm.
I do like the level of control that provides, and I do think that that is an effective system. However, not every county and municipality has opted into that yet.
Mm.
So at the moment, the more effective thing to do is to contact your county's, usually they're called access and functional needs coordinators. And that's the kind of thing we also would help people identify if they wanted to do a planning session with us. We can, make sure we look up your municipality and get you the specific contact information for that person closest to you. But every county at this point, at least in the east of Pennsylvania, there are a couple central west counties that need to catch up, but has someone on their emergency management staff whose job it is to make sure that people with disabilities are accounted for in emergency response. So
Mhm.
that person should know if there are any registries available or in play in your area. Another option is to contact your fire department. I think that fire departments in general are much more useful than police departments if you're looking to give someone information about what your needs are.
Hmm.
Fire departments have a better infrastructure actually for response in terms of being able to mark what the needs are at specific addresses. And that's also just a little more approachable to some people. Maybe a little more likely to result in kind of a person-to-person connection in some areas than going to the precinct office would be. Those are my top tips. Asking for the function access and functional needs coordinator from the emergency management at your municipality, or talking to the local fire department.
Those are really good tips. Thank you. I had one other question, but does anyone else have further questions for Caitlin?
Go ahead, I'll follow up after.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to ask as well, and you don't have to list them all out in the interest of time, but if there's a client who maybe could take advantage of some of the higher tech sort of like reminder apps and things like that, but maybe before even utilizing that needs some baseline training or introduction on just technology in general and basic tech literacy, would you guys be able to point people towards resources and programs for that type of um, training that's maybe not specific to assistive technology, but just kind of giving people a baseline on some of the more high-tech things these days?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple organizations. Generations Online is one that's locally owned, and then Cyber Seniors. I know they've got seniors in the name, but they do allow other people to take their courses, who do kind of that, what we call digital literacy type of work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and would be happy to help people find one of those programs in their area, or to start one of those programs in their area if there's not one locally. Maybe the local library is willing to host one, if they don't already have a program like that in place. And if it is something that is going to be related to assistive technology, like the person does want to use a smartphone for executive function purposes or something like that, we can also jump in at that point and say, okay, if you own a phone already, let's go through the basics of what you need to do to get to that point, where it's helpful for you in this way. So that could be useful as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your sharing your knowledge tonight. This was, like I said, a wealth of information. We're very appreciative. And as always, it's lovely to see all the participants, a lot of our regulars here. So nice to see everyone. I hope you all have a nice rest of your evening.
Okay,
Thank
Caitlin,
you.
yeah. If you'll stay on for a minute after you're done, I'd like to ask you a question.